Welcome to Self, the self-education your future self will thank you for. I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the last episode that I was going to change that up, but I still ain't thought of anything better. If you listening to this and you got like a better, more catchy tagline or something, feel free to email me, Courtney at selfpodcast.com. Last week, I spoke about my experience with rejection of someone having asserted their boundaries on me after I violated it. And this week, I was on the other end of that. And I think that if it weren't for that experience that I had of someone asserting their boundaries onto me after having violated them, I don't think I would have had the strength to have done this for myself. And the way that it happened, I'm not going to go into detail about the situation, but I had given this person a warning before of, hey, I don't like when you do this thing. And I didn't really have like a consequence, but because over the last couple of weeks, my therapist and I in therapy, we've been working on me having deal breakers and really being more assertive about my boundaries and not having them be molded to the person, because this would have presented an opportunity for this person to have continued the behavior that I didn't approve of, and this could have led to further, I want to say, disrespect of myself. And I really understood where the other person was coming from, whose boundaries I had violated, or who needed to assert a boundary onto me. I don't want to say I violated it, but that person, they asserted a boundary onto me, and I was respectful of it. And I thought about how much of a better person I am to be able to honor boundaries, because I got to experience that, and I got to feel the discomfort of doing a thing that I never want to do for other people, which is make them uncomfortable. So being on the other side of that, I was still uncomfortable with having to assert my boundary of, okay, this is a repeat offense to a behavior that I've already let this person know that I don't approve of. I felt extremely uncomfortable with the feeling of them having violated this boundary again. Especially because I'm so new to boundaries and having to assert them. Honoring them is easy when you get it right. Honoring them is, or the feeling that comes from when you dishonor them, or when someone places a new boundary on you, you almost feel like you take it personal, like it's a rejection, or it's something that just, I don't really have language for it, but it's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable on both sides. So as I was figuring out how to respond to this person and what they've done, I felt angry a little bit at the fact that I had already told them this. Like, why are they not listening to me? I didn't feel heard. And part of me wanted to not respond at all and just ignore this situation. But then I thought back on my experience of someone asserting their boundary onto me, and how much better of a person that made me feel, like, because this blind spot was essentially pointed out to me of oblivious behavior, and I'm able to move forward more mindfully. So I owed it to, I don't want to necessarily say I owed it to her, but that's just kind of like the best way that I had to put it. Like, I owed it to this person to give them what was given to me, because perhaps this will make them go on and not continue to violate people's boundaries, because if they've done it with me, they've done it with other people. So what that means is that this person didn't hear me, or maybe they heard me and just were like, Courtney's not serious, so I'll let it slide this time, or he'll be all right later, or I can do this again. And there's all types of different thought processes behind what a person who is not honoring a boundary can think. So the only way to really communicate with someone who doesn't hear you is to act in a way where they have to receive you, right? Or they have to choose to walk away. Like, hey, you're going to hear me and you're going to understand what I'm saying, or you're not going to be in my presence. It's as simple as that. So I thought this was a really good follow up to last week because I was uncomfortable with telling someone, hey, this is my boundary, you violated it, and here is what I now have to do. I now have to be willing to walk away from you, or I have to now do it because I said to myself, this is what I'm going to do. And once I got through the other side of the discomfort, it wasn't necessarily anger. Initially, it was anger toward myself for letting it happen again. But then it was like, wait a minute, I'm not letting this happen. This is what a person chose to do. They chose to not listen to me after I had already told them that this thing that they're doing or have done before in the past is an issue. You know, regardless of where their emotional state is, if they were excited, if they had good intentions, like regardless of what your intentions are, your impact was that you did not listen to me. You did not respect me enough to honor my boundary and take a different approach to get whatever outcome it was that you had desired. So, as I got through the discomfort of initially typing up the response that I had, I felt a sense of relief. I felt a sense of something new. I don't know what this newness was, but I felt a newfound sense of self respect for myself. If we cannot respect ourselves, how can we expect that from other people? And essentially, that's what boundaries are. Boundaries are, or one thing that boundaries are an extension of our own internal just respect for ourselves, the respect for our identities, the respect for ourself. We put that out into reality to be received by other people, or for it to be for people to choose to not want to receive it, right? So there's both sides of that. And I thought that it was very interesting that on either side of boundaries, it's challenging. But I feel as if the more we do it, the more comfortable we get with it, the better we get at it, the sooner we can begin to not only assert our boundaries, but also begin to recognize if someone isn't respecting our boundaries. And then we can make the choice of doing whatever it is that we need to do in order to prioritize ourselves. I've learned that in prioritizing the needs of my spirit, the needs of my identity, and all my identities and the intersection of identities that I carry, everything else is taken care of. Everything else. I mean, my body, my mind, my emotions, because I prioritize my soul, my identities. Like that's myself. Like that's what all three of these things really are to me. And most people call it energy, and I would agree that I would agree with that being what it is. Like you feel a person's energy, you're really feeling their identities. But this was just something as a good follow up that I wanted to share here because it was really, really challenging. But I did it. And I feel a lot more confident with asserting boundaries to new people in my life than I do existing people in my life. And I've even started to assert my boundaries by like letting people know, hey, you know, this is something that I'm working on for myself. So the people who are already in existing relationships with me, or they have like a relationship dynamic with me, I can introduce the fact that I am going to be introducing boundaries to people by just simply saying that this is something that I'm working on. So take with that what you will. Hopefully there was some usefulness in there. But the topic for today, if I can even say that, especially the way that I be rambling, is how we expect failure. And when I say we, I should just say me. I accept failure, or I expect failure. Failure is the expectation. I expect things not to go my way. I expect to be rejected. I expect to not get what I want, to the point where I'm almost numb to it. I'm numb to the feeling. Like whenever I get excited about something, I immediately am following that up with a feeling of foreshadow foresight disappointment. And I've already dealt with this. I understand where it comes from. I've talked to my dad, who I think that instilled that in me, but it's still something that I'm working on. Like, we never really stop healing from our past trauma or experiences that have taken place so often that that's what our reality is, and we expect that. So for me, I need to use I, me, I, me statements, okay? For me, I just yesterday, it was actually yesterday, that it came to me that it it feels weird when things go right, and that shouldn't be the case. I got it flip flop. It should feel weird when things don't go my way, especially if I'm working hard towards them, if I'm being consistent, transparent, reciprocating, or having initiative, even, and I'm maturing. As I'm exercising my values, I'm exercising my identities. As long as I'm living in alignment, when things don't go my way, that should be weird. And even if it's weird, it's also a redirection to the point where I'm doing things that are in alignment with my values and my identities, that it at that point it becomes expected, that success is expected. I'll give you the example of what I'm talking about here. So on Friday, this past Friday, I, right before bed, I was just laying there and I was thinking to myself, I do a lot of different things. I run a nonprofit. I fulfill all the functions of the nonprofit. My board of directors is more of an advisory type board to just keep me from doing anything crazy. I host 2 podcasts. I consult with people on a day-to-day basis. I'm a personal trainer. I am a newly certified yoga instructor, and I've also done a lot of freelance, like advertising, media work. That's a lot for me to be in the situation I'm in financially. Now, granted, COVID has definitely impacted my employment opportunities and what I'm doing, but I also feel like it downsized me. It made me have to be more focused. So as I'm going to bed, I thought to myself, I want to invest more in yoga. I want this to be my career. I want to be the best yoga instructor. And when I said that, I thought about the Pokemon theme song, Ash Ketchum. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. The rest of the song doesn't apply to yoga. But I want to allow for that to be my goal, because I was talking to my therapist even, and he said, what goals do you have? So I want my goals focus to be on yoga teacher training, or on my yoga teaching. And so I go to bed after having declared that out loud, and I woke up the next day, and my yoga teacher from my 200-hour training had tagged me in a post for someone who is looking for male models who've gone through a yoga teacher training, who can take pictures and videos at their spa utilizing their services. And I was like, oh, cool. I would be interested. So I reached out, and then I thanked her for thinking of me. And in doing so, we caught up. We were just chit-chatting a little bit about how things have been since our time together at the 200-hour yoga teacher training. So by the end of that, she mentioned that they were about to launch their 300-hour yoga teacher training. And with that training, it starts in 2 weeks. So from the time of the conversation, the first day of class was 2 weeks from then. So she asked me, she's like, well, if you're serious about it, we can reopen the application process. You can apply, and we can go through it from there, see if you'll be able to get in this cohort or the next one. So I went on ahead and I hurried up. I filled out my application, got my resume together, and we ended up having my phone interview on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So 4 days from the day that I declared that I wanted to take my teaching yoga more seriously and let this be where my focus is. So we had the interview, and then everything was such a quick turnaround process. I was concerned about the finance situation more than anything, just given I don't make near as much money as I had before COVID had hit. And so I was able to get financial assistance. They accepted me into the program. Like next, in 2 weeks, I'm going to be back in yoga teacher training, but for a 300-hour course, which is just more in depth. I feel like I'm set to teach a physical practice class. Like I can go into a gym and tell people, move your foot to this place, hand to this place, and put people in postures and say the name of the poses. I do not feel that I can be at the level of honoring the core values of yoga and the original culture. I feel like where I'm at in my teaching is very far removed from the home space of yoga, if you will. I think that's the best way that I can put it. But in just that interaction from the declaration to the acceptance letter that I got, I found myself getting excited. I got excited, yeah, after the fact, but the way that it happened from declaration to the creation of opportunity, and as I mentioned before, my definition of success has shifted. Success is the creation of opportunities. It's being able to watch the progress from sticking to a process. And what that looked like for me was challenging my beliefs with out there reality behaviors that looked like me continuing my yoga practice beyond what was done in teacher training. I still teach classes, and I'm serious about this. Like I've taken 2 yoga classes just today. My goal has been to do 3 yoga classes a day, but that's really tough for me to stick to because I also still work out, I lift weights, and I do like cardio workouts here and there. So without overdoing it, I want to make sure that I'm making time for it. And I'm also incorporating different types of yoga, but I'm taking it in from the lens of a student. I'm not doing yoga to do yoga. I'm doing yoga to have my perspective expanded, to see what other people are doing. How are they transitioning? What language are they using? How much more prepared can I be? It's almost like I'm studying film from the lens of a person who would be taking one of my classes. And so not just these things, but now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm even picking up on things that were said prior to this happening that I can count as little synchronicities. Carl at the gym that I train people at, Given 100, he said to me, he's like, yeah, I want your yoga class here to be successful. Like, let's keep it there. Let's stick with it. You know, because there have been times where nobody comes, or maybe there's one person, and there are times where there's like 6 people in here. So that's too stuck with me. And then my partner, Lindsay, she told me, she said, she's like, well, you know, what I noticed is that she and I were doing yoga together, and she pointed out to me that there were poses that the instructor was able to do, for instance, put her leg behind her head, that I'm unable to do, but I'm comfortable in bringing myself to a position where I still get the intention of the pose. So I would still activate the same muscle groups, and perhaps that being something that makes yoga uninclusive or inaccessible to people perhaps with my body type. I'm 6 foot, 245, 250 pounds, somewhere in between there. And I'm not as bendy as the yoga instructors on YouTube are. So perhaps if someone saw someone less bendy who wanted to try yoga and get yoga from it, not just the asana practice of just moving the body and getting in the postures, then maybe they'll be more receptive to it, and then they can make their way into the yoga space. So all of these like synchronicities occurring regardless of when they happen really made me feel as if this was weird out the gate. My initial response, despite my excitement, it was just weird to me. And I really found myself fighting that. I fought that tooth and nail, the thoughts in my head of not imposter syndrome. Like, I don't believe that that's what it was, but just, I can't believe that this amazing thing that should happen and should be expected is actually happening. Why is that? Why is it that I expected something along the lines to go wrong. Even now, like the payment's taken care of. I done got my login information, and I even still have to fight with this expectation that something's gonna go wrong, and I shouldn't. I need to shift that perspective to expect things to go the way that they should. And if they don't, then I have to even accept that as being what was supposed to have happened. It's a struggle, it's a challenge, and it's ongoing. So when you commit to making some sort of a pattern change, behavior change, belief change, you have to really commit to it, Courtney. This is what I have to tell myself. I was doing a workout this morning, and it was an online virtual workout, and I caught myself like remembering who I am from that winning mindset, that competitive mindset. I've played sports most of my life. I played football from the time I was 12 till my last year in college, and when I got done, it was just this alleviation of my competitiveness. It was almost like I just repressed it. But when I was doing my workout, I'm in here by myself. It was 5 a.m. I'm at the gym, and it's just me. Like, there's no competition. It's just me. And I just felt what I can best describe as this this crustacean over my identity as an athlete just shattering. Like, light was breaking through the cracks. If you can imagine a boiled egg, after let's say you drop it and then you pick it up and you see the cracks and you squeeze it a little bit and more cracks create, and you just kind of, you're peeling off the layers. That's what I feel like the light of my athleticism had been breaking through. And when I speak about athleticism, I don't just mean physical ability. I mean the mindset of an athlete, a winning mindset, a disciplined mindset. And all of those aspects were reawakened to me. And that was this morning, actually. Yeah, this morning I felt that. And I felt so much stronger in my acceptance of the fact that I need to expect for things to go my way when I'm working toward them. Things not going my way, that's what the surprise should be. I should be surprised when things don't work out. Like, oh man, I can't believe that didn't work out. I wonder why. And then be able to process and move on accordingly. And understand that even if things don't go my way, they went my way. And what I mean by that is, let's say in dating is a really good example. If I'm dating someone and then our relationship doesn't work out, and it's a bummer, because you may invest in someone and they are not your person. You're not their person. So somewhere there's a disconnect, and then you decide that it's just best that you part ways. Yeah, you'll be a little bit sad. It'll be uncomfortable to navigate the conversation and wonder what other people are thinking and wondering what's going to be next and venturing into the unknown by yourself. But it worked out your way if the next relationship happens to be more of a fit, right? So imagine staying in that relationship where everyone's questioning whether or not it's a fit. Everyone wants to bring it up but doesn't. Now what are you doing to yourself? It works out better in the situation where the thing that we identify perhaps as failure or not success, the thing that is not success in the way that we believe it should be shown, is oftentimes still a success. And we can learn from not successes and apply that to future successes. I said to myself, my idea of success is the ability to create opportunities and being able to see the progression of my processes lead to the creation of opportunities. That's what it is for me. And in aligning with that, my situation with yoga that I just explained, that is a perfect example. My process being commitment and consistency in my yoga practice, wanting to do it, continuing to teach it, continuing to learn from it, continuing to embody it, not just on my mat when I'm at the gym in front of people, but when I'm by myself taking someone else's class. When I walk away from yoga and my mat's rolled up and I tuck it away at the gym or tuck it away at my apartment, as I'm walking back and forth to where I'm going, as I'm interacting with people, there's a consistent just element of yoga embodied through me. I watch a lot of cartoons, Dragon Ball Z being one of them. I'm 32. I don't know how old people will be when they listen to this podcast, but Goku is the main character of Dragon Ball Z. And I think that Goku is probably the epitome of an athlete. He can't play no sports. I know he can't. He ain't coordinated enough for no sports, but he's lived beyond his time as a student, always striving to learn, always just being disciplined, getting better, right? And one thing that I've learned from watching the show is most recently they've discovered this new transformation, right, called Ultra Instinct. And I watched some YouTube videos that are talking about the next step in Dragon Ball Z and where they're going to go with that. And one of the things that he said was being in a state of Ultra Instinct, that transformed state, all the time in your base form. He treated it like a transformation. So paralleling that to real life, I'm not a yoga teacher. I'm not a yogi just when I'm on the mat. I have to embody that when I'm off the mat. There's another show called Demon Slayer. The main character, Tanjiro, he has this thing called water breathing or total concentration, where you are breathing in a particular way. And his teachers, his most recent teachers, have told him, well, do you know what sets the next level demon slayers apart from where you are right now? Is being in that state of total concentration, breathing all the time. So I look at that and it sounds like a challenge. Like, that's another athlete mindset, to be in your purest form all the time. And yeah, it's going to take practice. It's going to be draining. Yeah. But this is what I feel like I've worked towards, like in my practicing of yoga and in my learning what I've learned and remaining consistent to what it is that I've chosen to do, and then making that declaration of I want to be the best. I want to invest more. I want to make this my goal that I talked about with my therapist. I want to make this the priority of my focus for my goal. Making that declaration and then having had things work out the way that they have for me to take it to the next level, to be able to learn how I can be more of a yogi off the mat, embodying this full connection to myself, because that's what yoga is to me. Yoga to me is just a connection to self. It's a pathway of connection to self. And who knows, maybe through that path, I'll be able to find other paths of self-connection. Who knows? But I'm really, really excited for myself to see my consistency pay off for me in this way, and to see that the universe supported me from when I made the declaration to the time I went to bed, to the time that the post was made by the person and my yoga instructor thought of me and tagged me in the post and initiated our conversation, going into the fact that there's a next level to my teacher training that I could get into. And despite the barriers that were in place, it seems like the barriers were removed. But I have to look at this like there were no barriers to begin with, because this is what was supposed to happen. I did my part and stuck with it, and this aligned, so the opportunity presented itself and it worked out. That's where I got to get to. That's where we all should be at. We all should expect success. Expect success, not failure. Don't be surprised by success. That felt good. It felt really, really good. But this was a thing that just it happened, and I wanted to bring this here because I feel as if this is a very pivotal moment in my life for me. I am still running my nonprofit, Something Positive for Positive People. I am still going to host the Something Positive for Positive People podcast in the way that I have been. And this podcast self has really been everything that it's evolving into, or everything that it's evolved from, it's very pro self reflective. I am considering this to be, given what I just talked about, this is a pathway of connection to myself. As I bring out what's in here out there to the world, it has to be genuine, and I have to be disciplined with this. And I think that putting it out to the world and saying I'm doing this thing consistently, there's an aspect of accountability to it. So every Tuesday, there has to be a podcast episode for self. If there ain't one Tuesday, then I'm not in alignment with who I say I am. I'm not in alignment with my identities. And I think that the more in alignment I am, and can be, the more of this success I can expect based on my definition of success. I am creating more opportunities for myself through the progression of my processes in place. So from that sense, I can expect success. I don't want to be weirded out anymore when things go my way, when things go right. And tapping into this repressed aspect of myself, my identities, my athleticism, it's reawakened something. Like it's I caught myself in my workout today, like, you remember who you are? Do you remember who you are? Like, I'm getting chills even thinking about it. Like that student in me, that person that watched the game film, that showed up for practice, that did his best, even if it wasn't always enough come game time. But the athlete mindset, that's what I just reawakened throughout this experience, to where I can expect success. And I think that this transfers well outside of just the career, but expecting success in boundary setting, in building relationships with people, in dating. Success should be expected, in the sense that even if you experience the emotional impacts of a rejection, you should know that that was a success, for the simple fact that now, the person that wasn't for you isn't there anymore. And the person who's for you now has a higher probability of connecting with you, because you're not focused and connecting your energy to someone who is not your person. So let's expect success moving forward. I like that. And when the challenges come up, tap into your own inner athleticism, whatever that may look like. Whatever aspect of your own identity is, go ahead and tap into that. Like, everybody has like an inner athlete, an inner resilience, if you will. Tap into that and allow for that to help you with the expectation of success. So if you want a family, you have to expect that everything that you're doing, the progression of your process in place to have a family, to date with that intention of having a family, you can do that. You can make that happen. And there are going to come situations that perhaps waste your time, but you can cut through all of that with just having boundaries. And even in the beginning of this episode, I talked about how hard boundaries are, not only to receive from another person, but to initiate onto someone, or to, if you're someone who's been around people for so long who have not had boundaries with you, and you haven't had boundaries with them, it's going to be a lot more challenging. But I already gave you what you need in order to reintroduce, or kind of introduce this idea that you are going to be implementing boundaries. This offers them an opportunity to be like, oh, that's good for you, I can't wait to support you. Or they're going to be like, what's that? And you can educate them, and they know that when you bring something up to them, that you're serious about it. So just know that you have a sense of freedom and security and stability and anchoring in your boundaries, and that these, while someone may not honor or respect them, you have to be willing to walk away. And that's not a failure on your part. That's a success. Let's stop being surprised, because when we start doing that, we're going to have a lot more surprises that we got to challenge, right? The surprise that comes from things going the way that they should, or maybe a person that you think is going to disappear is actually going to stay and be like, wow, I really respect you. Thank you for telling me that. What? You do? Don't be surprised by that. That ain't weird. That's what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to be that way. Expect success, all right? I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I got to get some food with my mom, but yeah, this is Self. Thank you for, if you listen, thank you for following along. This is just my own space of self-exploration, self-discovery, and self-expression, and really giving a platform to my identities to be able to come here and just word vomit for the sake of my own healing, and hopefully for others to experience a little bit of healing for themselves, as they hopefully get to just experience someone who's going through similar things that parallel alongside what their life experiences are. Thank you.